Live from the Icebox Studio in Montgomeryville, Pennsylvania, it's the Bill and Corey Show.
I'm Bill.
And I'm Corey.
Welcome back. This is live episode number 94. We're coming up on 100.
Oh, wow.
We're getting there.
Getting
old.
old.
Yeah. So we're live. We got a bunch of questions for you today.
In other news.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, we're going to start with the question. You probably might have heard this one before, but we had some technical difficulties last time we had this question. Where do you get the 7 SCFM for the flow rating on the 3810A and 3120A series dual stage regulators?
I know where you get it. You go to store.mathesongas.com. You order one of these regulators, you put it on the cylinder or bottle, as the kids like to say, and then out comes the 7 standard cubic feet per minute. That's how you get it.
Okay, so we're talking about, we had a customer call in. It was a dual stage regulator. I don't know if it was the 3810A or 3120A. They have the same flow characteristics. Little secret
just different
here.
Materials.
One, the 3810A stainless steel, and the 3120A is plated brass, nickel plated brass. Same flow characteristics, just different materials. So where do we get this from? Let's pop up the first slide. And then this is off our online store product page for the 3810A series regulator.
And the key word is the first word. That's
typical.
That is the key.
Typical.
Key word.
Yeah, typical. And we say that so that you get an idea. This is for regulator sizing. You're thinking, I need a regulator, I need about 5 CFM. You go, this will work. If you have a regulator that needs 10 CFM, you'll be like, yeah, maybe I should look at something else. Yeah. We picked 100 PSI. That's a popular delivery pressure. And it's kind of close to the other. You might be in the 70 to 120 range. And it's like, yeah, I can kind of figure things out. You want to pop up next slide? Next slide. So these are flow curves. Mm-hmm. And if you look at them, they'll go, the 7 CFM is about 420 standard cubic feet an hour. And you say, wait a minute, these flow curves go way beyond that. What's the deal?
What's the deal with these flow curves?
What's the deal with these flow curves? Heck, I can get a 1500 SCFH. So what we do is companies can rate their flow rate however they want.
Well, I mean,
really, they can. So,
well, they can't just say it's 100 standard cubic feet per minute.
Well, no, you got to. Well, whatever. No one's going to buy it. Okay, you can kick off the slide. You see our wonderful faces. So they could rate it however they really want to do it. So the CGA, Compressed Gas Association, and publication E4, which is a standard for gas pressure regulators, they have their suggestion is, the rated flow capacity can be defined as 80% of the flow rate with the lowest inlet pressure at which it is to be used.
Yeah, so it's kind of giving a standard without saying it has to be a standard because there's no rhyme or reason why we would make it a standard. Right. That's what it seems like.
You can, because people are kind of all over the place, and there's different things going on with regulators. Mm-hmm. So you want to put up the next slide? You have to look at a slide, not us. So there we go. So this is the part of the flow chart, and you can see it's a 125 at 2,000 PSI inlet. That's like a full cylinder. Mm-hmm. And so there you're looking, I'm guessing about 520 SCFH is where it crosses that line. Oh, I'm looking at 125 PSI static delivery at zero flow.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
80% is like 100. So that's looking at 520. Well, that 520 is like 8.7 CFM. Well, the reason why we don't do that, it's supposed to be the lowest inlet possible. So you have a dual stage regulator, and it's going to kick it down from cylinder pressure down to about 350-ish. Mm-hmm. So the higher pressure, we'll show you what's happening. So yes, this is higher than what we rated at. How come we don't rate it at 8.7 CFM? So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this inlet pressure is 200 PSI inlet. So that's really about it. Really as low as you can go.
Yeah,
Your cylinder's
at that point, it's going to stop
10%,
flowing. Yeah, it's
10% of the full. Yeah, you don't have a lot of flow there. As you can see, we don't have the flow curve for 250 psi in here because it's below 200, so it's kind of silly. So, so when you pick your lowest pressure, if you're trying to do this at home with your regulator company, you need really be below the below the interstage pressure.
Call your local regulator company.
Below your interstage pressure. So here, this chart was previously made for us at 200 psi inlet, so that sounds reasonable. And there you can see 80% is lower, it's like 420. So that's why we rated it, which is 420 standard cubic feet an hour, about 7 CFM. So that's why we rate it.
We rate it at it's at a lower aspect of the flow rate. So this is, it's not the worst case scenario, but it's going towards the worst case scenario down that low in pressure. So there's nothing stopping you from saying, you know what, I want to stop flow, when it gets to 400 psi and I know my flow rate's going to drop below what I need it, I'm going to use a cylinder only to 400 psi and then somehow have some kind of system. So there's nothing stopping you from doing that as well if you need a higher flow rate. So
well, that's why we have the flow curve.
That's why we have the flow curve. So I'm just trying to explain it in a different way that might help people understand it, because flow curves I feel like are hard to understand personally.
Yeah, they can be hard to.
I understand them, but I don't know how to explain them very well. It's one of those weird things.
So that's why we put it down there. And it used to be years ago we would publish standard flow rates for each delivery pressure, and that's just like way too much information. Whereas most of the people are getting that 100.
Yeah, it's already confusing enough without
it's
adding more confusion.
You throw out all these numbers, and you're like, what? Huh? So we just try to keep it just to give you an idea to size it up.
Please, if you need help with flow curves, please write in or call. And those are I mean, they're all great questions, but I mean those ones are
there are no bad questions.
There are no bad questions, but those ones are. Well, some questions are more understandable than others.
Yes. Okay, next question. This one, Corey got to do some research. We got a little history lesson in it.
Oh, yeah.
I had a question about part number SEQ 3219B 180CP with cross purge.
CP stands for Corey Pitchler, right?
It's a Corey Pitchler model. With cross purge valves, there should be a comma there, with cross purge valves that were described as aluminum silicon bronze, question mark. Is that only for nitrogen line, or is there a common risk at that valve? I was interested in using this with a chlorine gas. So the valve, what they're talking about, this regulator, this is the actual regulator they're talking about. Well, they probably have it on site, but this regulator's Monel, the valve's Monel.
That piece, well, you can't see it, the little guy in between holding them together.
Adapter pieces is Monel, CGA is Monel. The valves here and the block
are all aluminum silicon bronze. Why?
So Corey, why?
Why is that? It's an odd thing. Like, why didn't we just
make
it
a Monel? Yeah.
Well, I did some, mostly, this was like a detective work. I had to go interview people, talk to people, I had to shine a light on their face, grill them. And nobody knew, because it's just been that way since the 1970s.
Yeah.
So what we suspect is that Monel is a special material. It really is. At times it's hard to get. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes, I mean, it's an interesting material, and I encourage anybody to look up Monel if you want to, because I think it's interesting. But I might just be a nerd. And so, but aluminum silicon bronze at the time was easier to get, easier to procure, and things of that nature.
And it's very corrosive resistant.
Very corrosive resistant. Works really well. And now that I think about it, I should have looked at advantages, disadvantages, not just, because once I figured it out. But I mean, they're both corrosion resistant. It's one of those things that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We've been doing it since the 1970s.
Yeah. It's been, we talked to a company that makes these valves for us and stuff. We said, hey, why is that? And he says, It's you guys.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s.
Told us this is how you wanted it made.
is
And
how
we
you
were
wanted
like,
it made.
oh, we did.
So it's kind of I think we probably set industry standard on it. Other
Possibly.
people too have the aluminum, silicon, bronze cross purges.
Oh, yeah, no. That's interesting how that can
other companies.
Okay.
I was looking at it, trying to. It's like, oh yeah, they got the same.
Well,
thing.
it must be right. They came to the same conclusion we did.
Yeah, exactly. Which
Or they just copied our conclusion.
you don't know, but it's yeah, it could have been
Interesting.
someone's decision a long time ago to Monel, but it's aluminum, silicon, bronze, perfectly good with
our corrosive gas.
corrosive gases.
I mean, I'm sure
That's
there's
why we
some
have it
special
there.
cases.
No, I don't.
No, there
think
isn't?
there's any
Okay.
Special cases. So it's perfectly good. And you can also plate it. They said you can plate it.
Oh, yeah, that's
You can't-
another thing.
You can't plate the Monel, which is kind of silly. You
Well,
got
it's like
something
painting
Monel.
aluminum.
I know. Well, I don't know.
Unless you get the
I never
special
really
paint. It doesn't stick.
You don't paint it. It's plated. Don't sit in there with a little brush painting them.
No, but
don't-
but essentially,
Don't paint your metal.
what is
regulators.
plating? Plating
So anyways,
is a
this
fancy form of
This
painting.
thing weighs about $6.
Uh-oh, we're getting a
6
signal.
pounds here.
Bill, we're getting a signal.
Oh, we'll get a signal for a question.
Whoa, we need a flashing light. Whoa.
Oh, look at that. We got a question
Like
here.
Pee Wee Herman. We need
No,
a Pee Wee
no,
Herman
we don't.
type. Oh,
No,
I think we
don't.
do.
Nobody understands Pee Wee.
I think they do.
Here's a question.
You want here? Just hand it over.
Can you have? I think there's autocorrect here on here that went wrong. Can you have two downstream processes using the same regulator? They use the same gas, and the process devices are never used at the same time. Is the gas track dual outlet control system a good fit?
Oh,
Oh, that was a good one. You
That
kind
was
of
a good
answered it
one,
for it. I wish I had a slide to show that, but we do have. It really depends on what you're hooking up to. The gas track dual outlet is it's a line regulator on a bracket, and that's intended for use in a lab. So you have somewhere else you have a regulator like this on your cylinder, maybe probably single stage on your cylinder. It goes to your lab, and then you got the pressure already reduced. Typically, comes into the lab. It's mounted on the wall, and it's got two outlet valves, one for each process. We initially designed those for incubator systems that need two CO2 lines. So yeah, that's a great thing. You can't put it on a cylinder, but it's
And one thing, just because of a recent question we got that we're talking about, but they have to be at the same pressure.
yeah, they have to be the same pressure. Or if you're switching, you can
But if you're
adjust
using it separate processes, so if say like I'm going to
Yeah.
use this process and then switch to this process, but in between you adjust the pressure for each process, you can do that.
Now with cylinder regulators, with the dual stage, you can. It's got extra ports on the bottom here. We don't ever zoom in camera. That's
You can put plugs in them.
it's going to be a while before we get that back running. It's got plugs in the bottom.
Oh, you can see those though pretty easily in the.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you tilt it right. Yeah, and you can see them better because they're not tightened, so it's got a bigger profile. So you've got an interstage port here. And then you've got I got it backwards. That's no, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, with this one.
No, this would be the low port.
Oh,
'cause
I'm
it's
sorry.
coming-
That's the interstage. So
I know,
a
it's
dual
always
stage,
weird when
you
you're looking
can't-
at it backwards.
I was thinking a single stage. If you had a single stage regulator,
Yeah.
you'd have an extra low pressure port.
Yeah.
A dual stage, it's the interstage port
Yeah.
there. So you
So
can't
this,
do it
yeah,
there.
so you can't do anything. So that would be for a single stage.
Single stage regulator, we sell a few of them that somebody wants an extra valve on there.
Yeah.
Dual stage, you can't do that. Single stage, you can. So that's that. And the last.
How many
Thank you for
times,
that
Bill? Question. I can type it in. How many times do they use the two high ports?
We've probably had something. I don't know.
All right. Yeah. No, that would be.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. No. There we go.
Okay, someone is looking for a laser hose. Oh, I already brought it out. I already answered it for you. Laser hose, 50 feet long, half-inch ID, 2,000 PSI.
Now, to be clear, I just want to be clear. This is not laser proof. All right. You hit it with a laser,
It's going to cut it.
it's going to cut it.
So this is
So it's not that type of laser hose. Nor is it a hose made of lasers.
Actually, this one is 25 feet long, but we do have a 50-foot one. It was just.
It's bigger.
You get the idea.
It's twice as big.
Twice as long. 50 feet's long.
It is.
Yeah, and it comes with flare fittings on the end.
And any color you want.
Any color you want.
As long as it's black.
As long as it's black. So yeah, it comes with a flare fitting on the end, and then we got adapters that go with it, the 1/2-inch pipe thread.
My brain went to Office Space when you said flare, and then the 15 pieces of flare.
Oh, 15 feet. No, it's a flare fitting. It's an angled fitting, and it seals on the seat.
Put this on your
Put on
your vest for
flare. No, it doesn't. Only in engineering land. Is that funny? It's got a nylon core, so it's it's nylon. It's only rated to it's beautiful. Nylon's the inside.
I'll do the Vanna White.
And then.
No, not Vanna White. That's
she retired.
No, I was thinking more of.
That's okay. That's enough. And then it's 1/2-inch ID, so it's got high flow for your laser application. Rated to 2,000 psi. So you can't hook that up to a cylinder. That's you can't. Well, you got to look at stuff like that.
No, you do. You do. I just.
People think, I got a flex hose here, and it's rated for a cylinder.
No, I agree. My initial reactions before I think. Don't hold me to my initial reactions, okay?
Okay. So, and this is printed on it. Everything. Sometimes these kind of hoses, especially when they got a surface that you can print on. They'll have way too much information. They'll just repeat the information.
And then repeat it. And then I see the same information like 14 times.
Yeah, it's all over there, so you can't miss it. I'm sure it says 2,000 PSI on there. So, yes, so we do sell those. And where can we get these, Corey?
Store.mathesongas.com.
That's good enough. Okay. And that's all the questions we're going to cover today. Thanks for typing in a question there. Changing things up a little bit. Now next week it's going to be a little bit different. We're taking a break from this just working on common question things. Next week we're going to talk about lecture bottle pressure regulators. How to select them.
We're going to have a lecture on lecture bottles.
We're going to have a lecture on lecture bottle regulators. So you might learn a little bit about lecture bottles. You learn how to select a lecture bottle regulator. We got a whole bunch of them you can pick from. And maybe if we have time, we'll get some of the equipment. So tune in next week for if you want to know about lecture bottle equipment. You're not interested in lecture bottle equipment.
Even if you're not interested, it could still be entertaining. Yeah, you can still tune in.
Us. Okay. So tune in again next week. Another episode of the Bill and Corey Show.
Set your VCRs.